more.
Welcome to Hey, it's the Luskos, episode number 48.
Oh, that's a great number.
It's
a
May
great day.
20th,
We're glad
2021.
You're here. You're listening. You're great.
You're great. This is Jenny's mind on drugs, ladies and gentlemen, or at least at the end of the day, you're great.
You are great.
I think you do fine jobs of being alive. Everybody, thank you for listening to this podcast. Thank you for watching it, whether you're on YouTube or Access More. You're on Spotify. Where else? Apple Music. I guess it's not Apple Music. It would just be Apple Podcasts. Wherever your digital podcasts are.
Where do you listen to podcasts on?
Spotify and YouTube. That would be where I would generally. Where do you listen to your podcasts?
Podcast app. Just makes sense.
That's the Apple one.
Oh.
Just makes sense because that's the name.
It's called a podcast app, right?
It's called a podcast app. Yeah,
I don't know. I do that.
Well, a couple things before we get to today's episode, which if you've seen the description, you know you're in for a treat because we have our friends Jay and Katherine Wolf on the podcast today. We had a chance to have a conversation with them that was delightful in every way.
Yes.
But I did want to throw out there, first of all, a couple things. Thing number one, or numero uno, as I like to say.
Or thing one.
Yeah, thing one is I have a new email, Jenny, that I'm sending out.
Congratulations.
I'm really excited about it.
It's really happy.
It's an email that I want to send to you, and I will if you give me your email address. I'm not trying to make it weird, but it's called Brass Tacks and Life Hacks. And if you know anything about me, you know I like to recommend products, services, experiences, places, restaurants, things.
And it's all just rolling around in your brain, ready to be given.
It's not rolling around at all. That would indicate it wasn't nailed down. I have it all in filing cabinets and drawers. It's sealed. It's locked. It's firmly vaulted.
What if it's a rolling file cabinet?
That sounds like it's on a ship, and it sounds like a cannon that's not been tied down properly, so it's damaging the ship as the ship heaves to and fro in the waves.
No, it's
Frolics
easy. It's
in the
easy to
sea.
move because imagine the file cabinet is that's there.
I don't like it.
Now it's easy to do interior design, redecoration in your brain.
I want it secured. I don't want anything rolling around in my brain. It sounds awful, like some ball bearings that are just on a hill. I want things in
Things roll around in my brain all the time.
That sounds painful. Okay. Well, the email is Brass Tacks and Life Hacks. We're sending it out at the beginning of every single month, and in it, I take the things that I'm crazy about, obsessed with, absolutely recommend wholeheartedly to you, and then other just random things, and usually a leadership thought or two. And if there's something I just want to talk about, that's the place.
Okay, now I just want to say that every single person should sign up for this email. I'm going to sign up for this email, even though I get access to this brilliant mind every single day, more than anybody, which I'm very lucky. I count myself very lucky. But I believe that you're going to help so many people truly with life hacking and figuring out things that are going to make them enjoy life more and
make life better.
And so
it might cost you some money in your Amazon
and
account
men
along the way.
And children.
And sometimes why? The last of the vowels.
This is my 2 cents.
Old joke, new day. I like it. So you can go to levilusko.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, and join my email list. And if you do that, you'll automatically, every time a new month begins, never have to have FOMO that you...
What if somebody already is on your email list?
They're going to get it automatically.
Oh, really?
If you get emails from Levi Lusko, you're going to get it when it comes out. But
those of you who are already getting emails, you can just relax.
Just settle down.
Let the things roll around in your brain.
Stop it. But if you aren't, then you will miss out on me getting to tell you about how to have a cup holder in your shower. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a thing.
You guys need to do it right now.
All right, there you go. There's my 2 cents of rabid trailed. Wow.
It's going to be so great.
Okay. No, I was just that whole sentence I got out of control in the middle of it.
My influence in
you
your
said
life.
2 cents a minute ago, so that was still in my head. There's my commercial over for my email list.
You said there's more things, though,
There's
right?
a second thing, ladies and gentlemen.
Thing 2.
And the second thing
go.
is Fresh Life Leadership College. We have an amazing college here at the church in Montana.
just had our
where
first graduates.
we just had our first graduation. We did commencement speeches.
It was my first.
Mom,
I also
we
never went
made
to
it.
college. Should I admit that on the radio?
Probably. Jenny is in no way involved in the college. No, I'm joking. She is involved in
I
the
give
college.
hugs and encouragement.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, we have that's good. Everyone needs a hug and an encouragement. We have a leadership
But it stops
college.
there.
You can study towards your degree here at Fresh Life while serving God in the midst of an amazing church and alongside our staff. And we would love to have you in the fall. It starts off in August, the semester, and you can get all the information at college.freshlife.church. That's college.freshlife.church. We would love to have you enroll in the Fresh Life Leadership College.
Do it.
Those are the two things. Well, today's episode,
It's going to be amazing.
as we mentioned, why are we awkwardly hugging? We're
You
just
you started it.
like when they used to ask you in church to put your arm on the shoulder of the person next to you and you would like lean while worshiping. This is pre-COVID.
No, actually, it's pretty COVID.
It's pretty
because
comfortable.
It's very like
It's pretty COVID.
it's pretty far away.
This is pretty COVID. I like it. That's funny. That's a word now. That's so COVID.
That's so COVID. You remember that show?
Is that its jingle?
That's so Raven. Remember that show?
No, I don't watch That's So Raven. I would watch That's So COVID. Sounds like a great show. Not making light of the pandemic. It's serious. and real.
Sorry.
It's
Not
like
sorry,
we're getting
but
so
sorry.
much trouble. Canceled. Luskos. Canceled. So please do check out those things. Oh, today's episode. We have, like I said, Jay and Katherine Wolf on the show. What words come to your mind when you think about these two?
Oh gosh, I would say strong, courageous, kind, eternally minded, funny, fun to be around with dashes in the middle of those words.
Wow.
I love these people so much, and we are like, I feel like
We're connected.
we're connected.
There's entanglement that's
Yeah.
happened. When they have an itchy nose, I scratch mine. That's entanglement. The particles are connected.
When you have an itchy nose.
When they have to go to the bathroom, I flush my toilet. It's like twins.
So weird.
Like your twin died far away across the world, but you all of a sudden jolt out of bed with pain in your side.
Oh gosh.
What we're trying to say is we love them.
love them.
And we have a lot in common with them, ages, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Jay and Katherine are two of the great leaders, trailblazing
Yes.
in the world today, telling the story of Jesus with joy in the midst of pain. We're big fans of theirs and really glad and grateful they would take some time out of their schedule to join us on Hey, It's Celeste Goes.
Yeah, and I also just want to add that today is Pick Strawberries Day.
That's not a thing.
So make sure that at some point in the day, either you just grab some strawberries from the store or
Pay for them on your way out
you
and wash them before you eat them.
or if you have a
PSA.
strawberry garden, just go pick some. Or if your neighbor does, maybe just ask, hey, can I pick some of your strawberries?
Weird stuff's coming out of your mouth over and over again, and it just doesn't stop.
I just think it's an important thing to know.
Do I love you? Yes. Am I horrified by the proposition of asking my neighbor, hey, man, can I pick some of those berries? I have my
Only
eye.
if they have a big
No, you
strawberry
say,
patch.
I've had
'cause then
my
they-
eye on them for a while. Hey, you got berries, I got needs. Let's let your berries and my needs mingle.
You are saying much weirder things than me.
I'm just repeating back to you what you said for confirmation. Is this what you said? Oh, by the way, let's talk about all the notes you've been getting from me the last couple weeks.
I was going to say that.
You were not.
Okay, here's the thing. When I said, it made it seem like you haven't written me a note since 2012.
But
it's not true.
Mostly because that's what you
No,
said.
because what I said was I have a note from you that you wrote me in 2012 because that's what I have. You wrote me a lot of notes in the past couple weeks. Thank you.
Got to make up for lost time.
But you have written me notes. I'm not saying you never do. I'm just saying.
That's not. It wasn't as often as it was.
As I would like.
As it would be. As it should be.
But you're a good note writer, but you also say amazing things. So if I wrote down
Here's
what
what's
you
happening.
say,
People are like, I'll like read a comment on Instagram like, oh, Jenny's so great. You should listen to this message she preached at our church. And someone's like, this doesn't count as a note. That's the kind of comments I've been getting from people who are like holding me accountable.
and you see them all because I'll post something and then I'll never see the comments or
Ooh, like
whatever.
a seagull. You poop and fly away. That is not a nice thing to say to your wife.
I'll just write that down.
Just write it down. Consider this a verbal note. That was a compliment. It was a love letter.
Thanks.
Take that, Casanova. Okay. Enjoy this episode. God bless you. And God have mercy on our souls. Jay and Katherine Wolf, welcome to Hey, it's the Luskos.
Hey, Luskos.
Hey, Luskos.
Hey, it's the Wolves.
Hey, it's the Wolves.
Luskos.
Hey, it's the Wolves.
Is that how everybody starts this?
Well, could it be Hey, it's the Wolf Goes?
Wolf goes.
Sure.
Wolf Goes. That would
It
be
has not
our
quite the ring to it as some of those,
our mashup
combo
name.
names.
Wolf.
Yeah, we might need to go back to the drawing board. But
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm
it's
honored
the
that people
Wolf
try.
Goes.
Wow.
I like
well,
it.
we're so grateful for you to be here with us today.
oh my
You
gosh,
two,
we're
we've
just
drinking
drinking
our-
coffee again.
We've been
You guys are
looking
drinking
forward.
coffee.
Always.
We're drinking
Always.
tea.
You
Yeah,
guys
we're
are
drinking
coffee
tea.
people.
We usually drink
Okay,
tea when we
we'll
record
switch.
podcasts.
Okay. The voice, that probably is better.
Jay, I don't know if you have this problem or Katherine, I'd love to hear from you as well on it. I found, I'm 38 years old, that as
Almost
we
39.
as
Oh.
we all are, all 82 babies, right?
Right.
Well, as this has gone out, you're
Yeah.
already 39. Just so you
Okay,
know.
yes. So people listening to this in May, I'm 39.
Yeah.
Happy
And
birthday.
Happy
Levi,
birthday.
that's why we hesitated, because we just turned 39.
Yeah.
So we were 38, but now we're 39.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're both
Right,
39.
the old
Jenny's 39. I'm 38 at this
82.
moment. What I was trying to say is in my old age, even though I'm the youngest person on this Zoom,
Yes.
that I find now if I drink coffee after noon, I have a harder time going to sleep at night.
Yes.
So I hit it hard early, and then I wean myself off after lunch.
Yeah. That's probably good for a lot of things, right?
probably.
Like hit it hard early, then kind of take.
Do you?
Taper
How does your
down.
coffee? How does you
Yeah,
guys'
probably.
how does your relationship with coffee go?
It's changed, I think. We like
Yeah,
it's funny, we were telling our son who's 13 and he's gonna have an opinion about just about everything. It's like he's seen the world for the first time and he's gonna have to tell his thoughts on it. Often with a little bit of snark, though he's a great kid. But he's like, oh my, I mean, coffee, you're obsessed. You're addicted. I'm like, just simmer down just a second. Because honestly, you're the reason why. Okay?
You're the reason
know
why
that
Daddy
coffee-
drinks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is my daddy drinks coffee, but he just is. I was in law school. We were both, we were 27-ish years old, probably 26, 27.
no, we were 25.
Yes.
When
I
you were in
can't
law
remember.
school.
So when I was in law
Yeah.
school, we had James, who was 13 now, right at the end, and it was an unexpected pregnancy. Although we'd been married a couple years, so it was all good. But we were really thinking about having kids when we were 30. But when he came into our world, we had literally done one class, right? A
Yeah.
CPR class.
Yeah.
We hadn't read a book.
Wow.
We went to Babies R Us right when she unexpectedly found out she was pregnant. And it was such bad PTSD. We never went and won again. We were just like, we can't.
And
So-
now they're all closed.
We're not
so-
ready.
Can you
Yeah.
believe that there's no Toys R Us or Babies R
I
Us
know.
anymore?
Yeah, it's weird. Hey,
I
listen,
can't.
you're telling this like this is so crazy and so dramatic, but didn't y'all have a baby at like 23 or something?
22, I think.
22?
No, I was 23 when
23.
I had Lily,
I was 22.
What,
You were
did it start the coffee
yeah.
love affair as well for you all?
Bible
I mean, we weren't
Bible
sleeping,
college Bible college started coffee for me. That was when I first started drinking it, and I just something about that cup of coffee early in the morning. There is just something
sure.
on that, right?
No, we would go
Absolutely.
to sleep dreaming about it. When
Oh,
we
for
had James.
sure.
When you
What-
had
where
James.
was Bible college, Levi?
California.
I
Right.
know. I'm wondering where. You
Oh,
know, we
sorry.
lived there.
I know you were in Malibu, right?
Well, for years in Culver City, then later. We love California.
That's right. Yeah. So I was in the Inland Empire in a city called Murrieta,
Yeah.
Sure,
and
sure,
what,
sure.
what was the college name?
Calvary Chapel Bible College.
Calvary Chapel Bible College.
'Cause
Okay, cool.
We lived in Pomona for her brain rehab.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right in there. So we were
2
in
years
the Inland
almost, yeah.
Empire for 2 years for brain rehab.
Ish, yeah, a little above that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
right. Terrible
it's a lifetime
traffic.
ago.
The
Yeah, it
traffic
was
on
not
those
great.
freeways,
Oh my
91,
gosh.
the crush, they call it, right there
60,
with a
you'd hit
5.
it.
Oh,
Just awful.
just bad.
Yeah.
Just stop. But I guess, I mean, if you have Audible or something, you can make the best of it. Listen to some
Yeah.
podcasts. That's
Oh,
really
well,
cool.
Still
listen
not
to a
great, though.
podcast. Yeah.
That's
They
the,
didn't have hey, it's the Luskos, so I don't know how.
Yeah, no
people get
kidding.
it.
well, you
Or
gotta get
Suffer
Suffer
Strong.
Strong on, and then you'll
Suffer
suffer
Strong,
through the
come on.
traffic, and then you can say hi to the Luskos,
Yeah.
and then you'll get to your destination some point today.
And then it's morning, and you drink coffee and start over.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm still
That's
laughing
good.
at you're the reason Daddy drinks coffee. That's really funny.
I did. He was like, "Okay, my
Take
bad.
that, James.
I won't."
My
Yeah.
bad.
I'm like,
Okay.
you're gonna love it one day too. So just don't judge.
Yeah,
Well,
don't judge
We
yet.
don't drink as much as we used to. You know, it's kind of like you become an adult, and then you realize like you're not 22, which you think you are in your brain still.
Yeah.
Always,
So
forever
things
21,
stop-
right?
Back to your forever 21. It's
Yeah,
classic.
yeah, it's real.
Even this past year, I feel like aged us. And you know, you get out of bed and I'm just like, what happened to my knee? I didn't do anything like
I just woke
significant, I
up.
don't think. I just like walked.
That is so funny. I was the other day
What
waking up.
happened?
I
and
woke
it's-
up like this.
Well, you know, you make those noises in the morning, like, oh, like just like you just find yourself like the older I get, the more noises
So
I'm
loud.
making to wake up in the morning while I'm waiting for the coffee to brew. It's just like, oh, that shoulder, you know, it's like using the knee. It's like, why does it's just a real thing.
It is real.
Oh, we're falling apart. This is the second law of thermodynamics, and it is the theology of
It's
the world
so
Yeah.
we live in.
But
Okay,
we
what
do
do you
not
think-
lose heart.
There
Yeah.
you go. There you go.
Yes,
What do you
yes.
think's changed the most as you've aged? Like your perspective on things? Like what do you see it the most? What do you bump into it the most often?
Levi, that is a hard question because as you guys know very well, young suffering, really big young suffering, informs the rest of your life. So it's hard to know what is age and what is young suffering probably and what is living with disability.
Yeah.
It's all pretty
I think in a way we mentally
Yeah.
aged early, right?
maybe,
So in a way we kind
yeah,
of
that's
maybe
true.
now somehow
body.
the body aging is sort of catching up with the
catching up
with
to
the-
being
with
an
the
old-
emotional
having
and
an
the
old
spiritual
soul.
aging.
Wow.
Maybe so,
somehow.
yeah.
So we're sort of like butting up against that. And then there's natural, you know, you're just like, wow, I don't know. I guess I've fallen into the human trap of just thinking I'm invincible or I can do these things to my body without really worrying about what it's going to be like the next day or really that I'm going to just go on living forever. I mean, we know all of that is not true, but until our bodies start to sort of embody that, you know, there's not that same connect to our
That
our,
is so
our
true.
soul. And I think, you know, there's just part of that mortality that is important to live into and grieve over and then find joy through. I mean, I don't know.
Now, aside from like obviously, and you're putting a wonderful perspective lens on that of our spiritual outlook and faith and hope and all that,
Yeah.
but putting it less spiritually, more just like you have an afternoon to chill. Have you found that like in your late 30s, how you want to, how you see a free day, like just as different versus like wanting to go out? Like I always used to want to go out and do something. And it's like, man, that just sounds nice to sit in that rocking chair on my front porch. I mean, I'm like,
I get it.
why
now.
does that
Cracker
appeal to
Barrel
me
makes
so
sense.
much?
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Totally. Do
Cracker
y'all have
Barrel.
Cracker Barrel? Probably not.
We don't
No,
have Cracker
we've
Barrel,
been.
but we did buy some rocking chairs. And
Oh,
I
hey.
see Jenny and I's future, and it's those rocking chairs.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
No, you totally get it. I think
Yes.
that's part, I mean, especially post 2020, maybe that's what happened is 2020 gave us time to sit still and let our aging bodies catch up with our already aged souls. And so we're just like kind of sitting around and realizing, wow, like we would have been on 45 flights this year.
Yeah.
And like, that sounds so crazy and
Exhausting.
tiring and, you know, engaging people, which is beautiful, but like, there's a lot to that and the energy that goes out and probably just, yeah, there was a lot of recognition of, wow, I feel too old to live that same life. And I would rather just sit with my kids in the backyard. We have like we have a tiny little backyard, but we've got these great trees. I pray our neighbor never does anything to them because it's really our little oasis, but it's actually not even on our property. So I'm like, I'm afraid they live long lives, but we just go back and we would forest bathe. We talk about it all the time in 2020 and just like
Sit in the backyard.
nothing like simpler than just sitting, looking at trees. I mean, in all of human history, but it is powerful. I mean, it's,
Now, are these the
we felt
same?
old.
Yeah, I know. We're with you. Are these the same trees that you wrote about in your book that fell apart that one night? Because you
that's
is that a different tree? Okay, that's
That's
California
funny.
tree. Okay.
That's funny you remember that, Jenny. I love
That's
that.
hilarious. I'm like trying to think. I'm like, oh yeah, I know exactly what story you're talking about that I wrote that time in that book.
That one time.
That one time when you put your soul into a book for a year of your life. Yes.
And then you blacked out and you forgot everything.
Yes.
Yeah. So we had these big, beautiful trees in our other California yard, and I mean, just like you could lay under them and they would give shade. We didn't even have air conditioning in the house, so they were just like these magical things. And they've grown exponentially over the time we were there. And literally, everybody hates them because, and I didn't plant them and I didn't realize this, but because they're so top heavy, they will literally fall over without a moment's notice. So,
Right.
yeah, that's what happened in our California front yard. Is these? I think they're coral trees they call them. And they just literally got some rain in the leaves, and then just the weight of it just literally took over about a third of this massive tree. And it was like on top of my, son's little toddler slide, in the front yard. I was like, oh my gosh, that could have been really bad.
Yes.
Thank goodness it wasn't. Anyway,
Oh my
so we have a
gosh.
love-hate with trees, but yeah, and also
Right.
the pollen. The pollen is
I don't know if there's
pollen.
pollen in Montana, but oh my gosh.
It's bad in Atlanta.
Oh,
It's
it's
very
it's
bad.
very bad.
And
But
I'm
it's so beautiful, so it's a trade-off because the trees are so
Yeah.
pretty. Yeah.
But I think when you're a little kid, you're always looking at trees, always looking at squirrels, like just everything's amazing. And then you kind of, whenever you grow up, you kind of get busy and you're starting to become self-important and you start to do all these things. And then I think what's beautiful about, as you age is starting to realize and appreciate, hey, there was something to that. And you start to almost once again rekindle that childlike wonder and being
So
able to be
true.
present.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing. And what you're saying is so eye-opening. Like you would have flown 45 flights this last year. You would have done that in 2019, 2018, 2017, the intensity of life. I mean, think about even the phrase jet lag. I think we all in 2020 were still experiencing some pent up jet lag from
Wow.
all the things we've been doing, the dizzying pace. And so when you sit still for a minute, you go, oh, there's actually kind of something to that. Not to say that we
Right.
shouldn't pick back up and do things because, the fields
Right.
are white for harvest, right? But at the same
Yeah.
time, I think us picking and choosing what we're going to allow and not allow back into our lives and calendars will be better for it, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
Absolutely.
And I think the winnowing down of what that looks like is kind of the work of right now, and I think there's probably for a lot of us some sort of a bit of an existential crisis in this season as things sort of are awakening again, like we're awakening to this possibility of what we could have in our life that might be different than what it was before. And there's some loss to that. There's some grief. Like, am I who I thought I was if I don't do all these things in the same way? Like,
Right.
am I living into the calling, the season, the stewardship, all of that? Or actually, was I not doing that before? And now I've been given this opportunity to do it differently. And so, I think that's a good thing. It's kind of scary for all of us, but I think, I think 2020 showed us there are some ways that we can pivot our life that we don't have to lose as much as it seems like we're losing. We can do it maybe smarter. Maybe we can just sort of focus in on some things. And we talk a lot about the constraints giving us an opportunity to really flourish creatively. I mean, artists, who is it even? Flannery O'Connor. It's like, you can't ever transcend, art can't ever transcend until it focuses in on the constraints that it's in. So, we all want transcendence, and what we do, we all want multiplication and something bigger, but it's really always through the constraint and the boundaries first that we can then open up to something bigger. So to me, that's a hopeful possibility. And that doesn't mean it's not hard to be like, I'm sorry, I don't think I can do what I did before.
Yeah.
and there, there's going to be some no's, there's going to be some disappointments. But I do think ultimately it's going to open up to something. It's just a better use of our time, and not forsaking like the trees in the backyard.
Wow. Yeah.
The kids growing up in front of us. all of
When
that.
you say existential crisis and kind of hitting that wall, and I think that resonates with me a lot, that I think a lot of us found out how much of our identity we were deriving from our activity.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what did that look like for you
Right.
in the last year? What were some of those walls you hit, or were there moments of like breaking, or did you find some things breaking loose at all?
I think we had no idea how long it would last. Probably similar to everyone in the world. Like, oh, this is kind of a vacation for a month. It was just so stupid to say because it wasn't for most. But
Yeah.
then after the first month turned into 3 months, 6 months, a year. Oh, this isn't really what we thought it was going to be. Maybe slowly but surely it's time to start examining our lives, because everybody kind of wanted to just numb out for a while. You know, we say we released Suffer Strong right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
And that idea of suffering strong would seem to resonate very deeply in 2020. But actually, we think 2021 even more so.
Yeah.
Because 2020, everybody wanted to watch Netflix and finish Netflix.
Right.
They didn't want to read
Finish
books.
Yeah.
They didn't want to do anything.
You're like, yeah, Suffer Strong, Tiger King. It's obvious.
That's
Right.
hilarious.
You know
No,
what I'm
that
saying?
is so
Well, and you're
true.
alluding to it, but let me hold this up for those watching video and access more on YouTube. This is the release here, a beautiful cover.
Oh my
Suffer Strong,
gosh.
Oh, thank
How
you.
to Survive Anything by Redefining Everything. What a wonderful subtitle.
That's it.
Was there a lot of versions of that subtitle, by the way, or is that the one right away?
I think that was
I can't remember. It's been too long.
the Redefine. Well, I think Redefined was maybe like the original framework of like basically what we learned in the decade or so after our lives were upended. You know, so the idea of, you know, maybe we're not going to get the healing, the outcome, even the story we thought, but maybe we could redefine that into the story that we have and like find a way to love it and flourish within it. And so, you know, again, your reaction to something is what you can control, even if you can't control the outcome, right? And so redefining all of these things that are such big motivators in our life, and we have 12, you know, chapters and sections that sort of we talk through how those things are redefined, from healing to trauma to beauty to celebration, even to hope. You know, so that was for us, that was the key to our survival, and then ultimately to our thriving was redefining how we had seen everything in our life. And that really is the gospel. It's the upside down kingdom. You know, there is this redefining of what we think things are.
Well, and we think that when our lives were completely upended, you know, on an ordinary day, y'all can relate, just totally different the next day, that upending of our lives helped us to see the upside down kingdom in a different way than we ever had before. So then we were able to very clearly redefine things in our lives, because we had to, honestly, not because we necessarily would have wanted to. You know, things were just fine before I had the stroke.
Yeah, Kathrine, before you go any further, and I do want us to talk a lot about this book, but for those maybe perhaps who, I'm sure most of our listeners have been familiar with your ministries and books and that sort of thing, but for those who perhaps you're new to them, could you just give a thumbnail sketch? And it's obviously, I would highly recommend Hope Heals, your first book, where you tell that story, but just give a little bit of context on you guys' story and what you were alluding to with the stroke and all that. Obviously, Jay, you were talking about studying to become a lawyer, and what came your way?
Yeah, in a super quick nutshell, he was in law school. We were newly married. We had a brand new baby. And when he was 6 months old, and I'm perfectly healthy, no medical history, no health problems whatsoever, nothing, I dropped to the ground and have had a massive brainstem stroke out of nowhere. No warning, nothing. And a tiny collection of blood vessels had been growing in my brain since I was in my mom's womb. I was fearfully and wonderfully made there with a small collection of blood vessels that would grow my entire life till I was 26, subsequently rupture, cause a massive brainstem stroke. And because of the avium rupturing and then the stroke, the surgeon performed a 16-hour brain surgery that was virtually unsurvivable. And I kept not dying throughout the 16 hours. And they kept being able to keep me alive. But they knew there would be tremendous deficits post-surgery. And there have been. I'm in a wheelchair. My hand doesn't work. I can't hear out of one ear. I'm blind in one eye. My face is paralyzed on one side. And I've had major what they would refer to as sacrifices that had to be made in order to sustain my life, which we actually find so beautiful to talk about now as we've wrapped our minds around it. The surgeon made the decision to wound me very gravely in order to heal me.
Wow.
And we feel like in all of our lives, the wise and careful surgeon may be wounding so that healing can come, healing can flourish and happen. And it took many years to wrap our minds around that God was so in this that even in the surgeon leaving me very, very disabled, that was the reason that I'm here, that I live because of a deep wounding, and that healed me because I maintained life. I stayed on earth.
Yep.
Even just your telling of that was challenging, inspiring. Again, phrases you use, your perspective of sweetness. I'm always blown away by your lightness. You guys have an airiness, a lightness to you. There's such a joy. There's such a sweetness of spirit, even in the midst of complexity. I realize tomorrow's still Friday. The bill's still got to get paid. You guys still have aches and pains and creaks, and there's reality,
PT visits,
all the things. But
Yeah.
but you guys challenge us continually and constantly.
Yes.
Paul talks about that fragrance of the aroma of the resurrection. And I just feel like even through the Zoom screen, and I'm sure our listeners are going, holy crap. It just puts in perspective the normal complaints that normal human beings have. And you guys exhibit such a joy in the midst of it all.
Yes. Well, and even in how you write, I mean, reading, I love both of your books so much, and I can't recommend them enough to those who are listening. But you said it so perfectly, Levi, the lightness, because the what you guys carry is heavy, and the life that God has let you live and the pain and the suffering is a heavy thing. And I mean, I just want to weep every time I hear you talk, because it's a hard thing. And yet how you write, like I'm laughing, like literally laughing out loud, because some of these stories that you're writing and your perspective and the sweetness and the, on it, like how Jay, how you described how your vacation in Rome and how you're like accidentally driving down tiny stairs. Like, it's just so funny. You guys, and spending time with you, like you're so funny and kind and sweet. And that is so true. Like how you live out, how you present your life with such a lightness in the midst of such a heaviness is so inspiring to me personally, to us. And so I just thank you, and I just honor you for how you have stewarded the pain and the suffering that God has allowed in your life.
Well, we received that.
So
That's so
sweet.
kind. And I think
Amazing.
we all have our up and down days, and our times when we, yell at a child for being crazy or whatever, not to, we also try to be really quick. Like, please don't put us on some canonized pedestal. Like,
you still go to the DMV and get pissed. I get it. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, for
And often,
sure.
we're at the Atlanta airport, and we're just having some ridiculously stupid, stressful moment, and whatever happened with some dumb thing, and somebody will come up. Oh my gosh, is Kathrine, I read your books and I love you, and can I get a picture or something?
Yeah.
And I'm like, how long have you been standing there
exactly.
next to us?
It's so true.
No, but I think that's what's so beautiful,
Anyway.
because it is, and you're so real about the struggle, and you're real about the frustrations. And so I think it's so relatable, because it's like, okay, we all struggle in this. We all have, and our struggles seem so much less than what you guys go through, but it's still a struggle. But then when you go through it like that, it makes us realize it's possible to go through suffering with a sweet spirit and with humor and with fun. And yes, it's not always going to be like that, and it's not always going to be perfect, but it just, the way you guys live tells us it's possible. It's possible. It's possible. And so, yes, thank you.
Well,
We'll give that
Jenny,
one right back to you.
Yeah.
Seriously, guys.
absolutely.
Those are
Likewise.
Mhm.
Likewise. You know, as hard as this has all been in our lives and on us, it's me, you know, the thought of losing a child or having a child in my situation is borderline unimaginable to us. I mean,
Yeah.
I can't imagine what y'all have suffered through as well. But I will tell you, to speak to what you're talking about, Jenny, and I see this in your lives as well. When you've suffered really hard things, there is just a different perspective on life, and things are just like funny and better. And there's this opportunity where you could be really bitter and resentful and just really like just a bummer and life is terrible. Or there can be this growth, this post-traumatic growth, they call it, that happens to where you're somehow like just the little things don't bother you as much, and the big things are more special and you cherish them. And I don't know, I think that, I mean, I want to be best friends with people who have all been through hell.
Yeah.
Because honestly, they're like, they get it.
Yes.
They're like, we're living it. This is the real deal. And the American dream is garbage. I'm not doing that.
It's
I'm
so true.
living knowing that there is suffering in the story, but God is still good and He's with us.
Yes.
And I think it really, like, the Suffering Club is a special club.
It's true. And, you know, I was just listening to this podcast with, it's called The Happiness Lab, Dr. Lori Santos. And she had this episode where she was contrasting those who win the lottery and what that does for you, which is almost never good.
Yeah.
It almost always destroys people's lives.
Right.
You get
Yeah.
killed by your family.
Marriages,
Yes.
family, health,
mess.
all that, right?
For
And then-
sure, yes.
And they almost always die penniless, right? And then she was contrasting that to people like this one guy that she had who suffered so greatly, almost all of his skin was burned when his Humvee got lit on fire in Iraq or something like that. And basically, you know, all the skin graft surgeries, he had to go through years and years and years of chronic debilitating pain. And yet she was contrasting that so many people who go through things like that end up being very grateful, very grounded, very sweet-spirited people who want to help others. And those who just receive what we would, like you said, get the American dream of whatever, it tends to actually do the opposite. You know,
Right.
so I mean, it's just very interesting. What we think is going to be our great source of joy is oftentimes not,
Totally.
and what we think might destroy us can actually end up at the end of our. Obviously, we wouldn't wish a child dying, and you wouldn't wish a stroke on your worst enemy. But at the same time, I know this. If I could have what God's given to us in the midst of our pain any other way, I would still want it.
Right.
And I wouldn't.
Right.
I say God does all things well, and I wouldn't want our story to be any different. As weird as that sounds now, having seen what He's worked and how He's given us comfort and what I know He has in store for us, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I think that whole idea of contentment being this learned process. I mean, who doesn't? Ultimately, what we want as humans is to find satisfaction, right? And to you know, the ways in which we seek that clearly reflect just the broken places in our hearts and our souls, right? And so we seek, oh my gosh, if I just had enough money, I could pay this off, I could do this, I could have this vacation and this house and whatever. And like, you know, just again, like you're saying, studies show, just not just an idea, but just like it's proven, like that isn't what our soul is longing for. And no matter what we get in those realms, it's just, we always just want a little more. And I think when we've been given that almost like rock bottom of an experience in life, it creates this new baseline of gratitude, of contentment. And that's not to say that's not, you know, you pop up from that and you're like, wow, like I get like the point of life and I get like God's whatever, like it's like, but I now know something behind the curtain.
Right.
And I that's the beginning of a learning process of contentment. And I mean, even for us, we've been pretty forthright about it. You know, we work with people with disabilities now. It's a transformational part of our life and our ministry. For the first couple of years after the stroke, where Kathrine, I mean, they removed part of her brain, so she was clearly not going to be able to function in the same way.
Yeah.
And literally 2 years in hospital rehab environments, just trying to learn.
And how many different surgeries has there been altogether?
And there's been
Altogether 13 thus far, and probably more. Who
Wow.
knows? But I've come through them all.
Yes.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
I loved how you said, I just kept on not dying. So, you know.
Yeah,
that's one way to keep
That's
living.
one way to keep
That's
it.
the key. I just wouldn't die. I actually bled out on the table. If you want some more info about that,
Wow.
5 different times in surgery.
Yeah.
So my full blood volume was emptied. I mean, you're supposed to die, and I just didn't die.
Yeah. Come on now. Well, and you know,
Wow.
how I think you're supposed to be a lawyer. You had this life path. You didn't mention it, but you were modeling and you're actress. You were beginning an acting
A
career.
lot's been made of that. I did some commercial work. Let's just say that.
Yeah, well,
I know. I was listening to your podcast on that one, and I love how you guys talk about that. And the whole title of that podcast was Redefining Beauty, which is a chapter in your book. But I love how you guys talk about that, and like it actually isn't what you think it is. It wasn't like a huge modeling career, but it's just
you
very
can say
funny.
much has been made of that, and let me tell you how many commercials I have been in. Let me tell you how many.
You've been in
right.
one.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
I
When you were
know, I
little.
know.
Maybe
Here-
at least one.
My point.
Come on.
Okay, I was in one commercial. It was local commercial though. It doesn't really count. Okay, but
You gotta see
my
that.
point is the life you have now is
Right.
not the life you saw for yourselves.
Yeah.
Yes, totally. Which
Mhm.
side note is everyone in this world.
Yes.
We're just a really
Mm.
powerful microcosm example of it. But,
But,
yeah,
but
totally.
Yeah.
when something gets taken from you that is what you expected, that
Yeah.
can lead to post-traumatic stress, that can lead to bitterness, that can lead
Yeah.
to lots of things. But you
For
mentioned post-traumatic growth.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would love
we're
for you
big
to
fans.
unpack that more, talk about that more, what that means,
Oh,
what that
gosh,
means to you.
There's you want to talk about it? You want me to?
Yeah.
There is a huge, beautiful movement where psychologists are recognizing that hospice nurses have reported 5 deathbed regrets that people have as they're dying. And people who have had post-traumatic growth happen in their story, which means they grow after trauma, almost exactly have the opposite regrets. So they do not have the same regrets of people who just die having led lives without tremendous pain. So
Well,
let
they
me
die
back-
without the regrets, rather. They kind of gain the things that most people regret. Let's put
Right.
it
So in other words, supposedly, because of our very young suffering and the post-traumatic growth we believe we have experienced, which basically means instead of staying in a permanent place of paralysis, we don't just get back to normal. We aren't just resilient. We've actually grown as a result of the trauma we've been through, which we believe is so the gospel and actually all of our opportunities.
Yeah.
So people who have experienced post-traumatic growth usually are the ones who do not have the same deathbed regrets as the rest of us. And that is profound, because what that means is they live differently
Wow.
post-traumatic growth.
Well, they have a vision that,
Wow.
that things matter now, not like I'll get to it maybe later in my life. And then what happens when you have that mentality is that later in life comes and you're on your deathbed and, oh my gosh, it went by so fast. And
Right.
I had meant to do so much. And I wish I would have, forgiven this person or spent more time with this person or done this thing that I felt really called to and that I loved. And I do think the really positive thing though, is it doesn't just post-traumatic growth just doesn't happen to some people who are genetically wired. It's like,
Right.
because I think that's some of the feedback maybe we could get. It's like, oh, well, that's nice for you. You're clearly like a positive person. I couldn't
Right. That's
have
not
resilience,
relatable.
right,
Right.
like you,
Totally.
if what happened to you happened to me. And I think that's not that's not true, in that humans, and I believe God has created us to be this way and our brains to be this way, are resilient beings. We're fragile in a lot of surprising ways, our bodies. I mean, you don't want to fall wrong and hit your head. You just don't.
Oh gosh.
You know, we've seen too many people who are with traumatic brain injuries. But the point is, our souls and our spirits and our hearts and our brains, even biologically, can come back after great wounds and great trauma. And what's interesting, and again, a little counterintuitive, I was reading this recently, and this is kind of a mind blow. You see things called trigger warnings, right? And I think I'm not diminishing those in the least, but what a lot of times that culture has created is, we don't want to expose you to anything that has hurt you, that could make you feel uncomfortable or unsafe again.
Yeah.
And of course, that seems well intentioned. The problem is, if you have been traumatized in a true way with PTSD by something legitimately harmful, you need a professional to help you be exposed to that thing again over time in measured ways, so that you know eventually it does not have the power over you to change how you feel about your current life. This thing in the past has happened to you, and that is regrettable, and that is awful, and we're learning from it, whatever. But to never ever be exposed to it, or have to see it, or even hear the word or talk about it in the world, is not the cure.
Right.
The cure to it is to say, like, to acknowledge, to grieve, and then to move forward in the opposite of a fearful, protected stance, but in a stance that says, this challenge has made something go deeper in me.
Right.
And I don't have to live so afraid and so fragile. I mean, I can be anti-fragile.
Come on.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah.
So that's just been so cool to put some of those pieces together in totally secular, empirically researched
Secular
studies.
and yet so New Testament.
Oh, totally.
Right.
It just
Yeah,
fits.
totally.
It fits
We
in a
think
powerful way.
it is so interesting to explore how, in specifically a Western world concept, we have really wanted to reject and keep our kids safe from anything that is not highly sanitized, anything that's really hard or sad, or any of the things you wouldn't want your children to even know, or that you wouldn't want to engage. But we've seen that that's really about a wrong definition of what good actually is. And for all the tremendous mistakes that we fumbled our way through this craziness, I think deep down, we both had an understanding of what good actually is, which true goodness is nothing physical. True goodness is the presence of God in our stories.
Yes.
And so on some level, we understood that, like, everything is absolutely falling apart, but nothing can touch the presence of God here. Nothing can touch the joy of the Holy Spirit. Nothing can touch, the assurance of heaven, the fruition of God's taking care of me, the comfort here and now. And that's going to radically change the neural pathways, how you think about your life and your story. And so I think it's totally New Testament, Levi, because it's totally like the power of Jesus helping write a new narrative out of brokenness.
Well, it's like it's possible for anybody who's not employing Jesus, but imagine if you're also employing Jesus, just what can be unleashed in terms of healing, in terms of joy.
Yes.
Well, and it's pretty cool when you see
Yes.
these new science breakthroughs basically tell you what God told you 2,000 years ago when the New Testament was written. I mean, it's
I know,
shocking.
seriously.
Oh, shocker. But, I think you're onto something with that conversation, because I think a lot of times we do want to protect our kids from some of the things that we went through that were hard, even though those things, if we look at them, actually shaped us in some of the best ways.
Yeah.
And I think this is pertinent even to the conversation with CRISPR, where the question is, can we, through genetics, get rid of some of these diseases and birth defects, and would we then maybe cure away some of the things that ended up shaping and creating some of the best art and some of the richest souls and some of those beautiful people? Like, that's part of that, conversation that we're going to have to reconcile.
Oh, it's so deep. And I think, I think I was referencing a minute ago about just working with people with disabilities, like just even entering into that possibility of what looks like great brokenness on the outside is really this new openness to seeing something different on the inside, to
Wow.
seeing a story that, wow, this is disabled. This isn't, so limited. But then to find literally through humans and through experiences that we've lived, again, that limitation, again, that the slowing down of a life, like the unexpected nature of a story, like, I don't know, just help us to see it differently, help us to be more in it, more intently. And it's been transformational, to say the least, just to surround ourselves with stories of people who are trying to live that out. And again, not to say it's without a lot of struggle, but yeah, if we could fix all of that, would we really want to homogenize this experience of our humanity?
Gosh.
Because I mean, in so many ways, the expression of it is what creates just such a dynamism and such this flow of ideas and creativity. And yet then to recognize that one of the great things that binds us together is our inability,
Yes.
Even though we express it differently, like
Right. Yeah.
none of us,
yeah.
as competent as we are, can do everything we think we're supposed to do on this earth.
That's right.
And certainly that's why God created us, to need each other, to need him. And so anyway, we've just found that ironically, our lack of being able to do all the things is really what connects us to more people than being able to just live this perfect, beautiful life,
right,
free of pain and suffering. And so we want to like give our kids that story earlier on. We've even recently kind of been confronted with I won't get into too many details, but just in our community, just like a difference of opinion on how a child, and again, age appropriateness, of course, is important, but how much should we tell our kids about some of the hard stuff going on in the world? Maybe some of the stuff right in our own neighborhood, like what's appropriate. And we very much are of the ilk, when you feel it's appropriate age-wise, like, don't let your kids' expectations be like that they're never going to have any hard thing in their life, that there's not going to be loss or death or different twists and turns, and to, as a parent, get to re-narrate the world to our kids, I think is, in a microcosmic way, what we as believers do to the rest of the world. We get to re-narrate the world to the world. And so I want to do that for my kid. Like, I want my kids to understand some of these really hard things through this lens that we've put on our life,
and we're doing them no favors if we don't,
right?
Because the adult life will happen, the bombs will drop, like life will fall apart to some degree.
Yeah.
I mean, our kids are going. You have a 14-year-old,
15.
We have a
15.
15, that's right.
Yeah.
The years are ticking down. When she'll be out in the world, when James will be out in college. I can't really.
We can't imagine
I can't
that.
even like feature how that's gonna work right now.
Yeah,
But,
no, I mean, Livy's got a job. She'll have a driver's license next year. I get it. It's like, oh wow, it's a countdown.
Scary.
It's a countdown.
Yeah.
It's totally scary. And we are trying to narrate to our boys that a deep truth that we think maybe we had in our hearts all along, which is that the story that God is writing in our lives is somehow a really good story. Despite all this craziness, it's a good story. Romans 8:28 is true. It's a long story too. It's not this moment. But also within this good story, you can do the hard things because of Jesus.
Yes.
So your story is good because God only writes good stories, but it's going to be hard while you're on earth. And you can do the hard thing. In fact, God made you to do the hard thing in the good story that he's writing in your life.
Yes.
And that is like just so powerful to think of when we would have been children and the children of the world, understanding that clearly that God wired and equipped us to do hard things in the good story he's writing.
Yeah.
I love that so much.
It's so good. It's so good. Well, speaking of parenting, I mean, your boys must be some of the sweetest. I mean, just even imagining them.
I know. Sure they don't walk on water,
I'm
but
sure they don't. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Maybe.
Even
They're
the home that
pretty
they're
great.
being brought up in. Like, would you just give us a picture of what it has looked like for you to parent in the midst of walking through the struggles? Like, I mean, obviously you're saying you don't want to give them all the details, but like for even you guys, as I mean, you said before getting on today that you were at PT, like what does it look like for you guys parenting in the midst of what you guys walk through every day?
It's weird. I mean, it's beautiful in the sense that these boys will know beyond a shadow of a doubt how to really treat their wives well, because they're watching their daddy get their mom in and out of every car, walk her up the stairs, put in her eye lube at night, and really take care of her. So that's really awesome. And you know, it's funny, like the questions, especially when James was little, and now John, who's 5, asks a lot, are like just very spiritually complex. Like, why would God save you if he wasn't going to heal you? And, you know, a lot of words that were hard to, you know, semantics, I guess you'd say, like definitions and what is healing, and you know, things that are pretty hard for a little brain to wrap their mind around,
or a big one,
yeah,
yeah,
or a medium
no
size
joke,
or all of the brains,
yeah, all of our brains for sure. But it's been really wonderful to see 13-year-old James is starting to just automatically put his arm out for me to hold when we walk, and just kind of start to really take care of me and take ownership and be very proud. And John, the little one, sometimes if I do something that I didn't think I could do very easily, I'll sing this. Like if I, you know, was to stand up at the stove and scramble an egg, that's a big deal because that's hard to coordinate. So I'll sing, Mama still got it, Mama still got it. And I'll put my one working hand in the air and do that. Well, suddenly little 5-year-old John recently thinks it's a dance and says, Mama still got it, Mama still got it, Mama had a stroke, but Mama still got it. Mama had a piece of her brain removed, but Mama still got
and
it.
it starts going on,
And
verse
starts
3,
going
4 verses,
on and
yeah.
on. And it's so adorable, like
my
this whole little
gosh.
chant.
But
and
I think that is sort of, you know, again, these just weaving resilience into the story of a life, and almost subconsciously into a child's brain to say, no matter what comes, you've still got it because God's still got you.
Yes.
And, you know, there's going to be beautiful and terrible things ahead, but it will be both, and you won't be alone. And, you know, just celebrating the small moments. I think we've gotten good at that as a family. Even just like super ordinary moments. It's just as basic as can be. But I mean, often, you know, dinner time is just chaotic, or people are going different directions. And I think 2020 gift has been just like reorienting our rhythm of our weekday, at least around just, you know, half an hour at the table, just staring into each other's eyes and laughing, and, you know, having some prompts about what happened today in your life. And like, let's download about that. And again, it's almost so old. It's like, it feels fresh again. It's like, wow, like family dinner, like this is big, you know, but it's like, you know, we'll like literally like kind of turn down some of the lights in the house. We'll put on some like nice chill music. We'll light candles. We make it almost
what music
ritual.
What music are we putting on?
We'll do like an Apple playlist, like a little jazz, like a little something that, because James will want to put on like Lecrae or something. You know, he just wants to put on like something with really like intense lyrics.
Mama still got it. He wants to bump.
Mama still got it.
Yeah.
Totally
Right.
what we're looking for ultimately.
Although, have we seen a Hope Heals Mama Still Got It t-shirt? I really
Not
think
yet.
Right,
It's
a
an
mug,
art.
a t-shirt, a parenting book.
You know what I was going to say
Honestly.
too, that I think is really important for everybody to do with their children is to re-narrate to them that they're not victims, that they're
Very
not
good.
the victim of their story.
Good.
Everybody wants to victimize themselves these days in 10,000 ways.
Yeah.
And my kids could grow up thinking their mom's disabled and she can't drive them to school and she can't kick a soccer ball in the yard and their life is so hard. But what we've been able to do, really, like the Lord did it, we didn't mean for it to happen, is through our camp for families with disabilities, which they come to. They're seeing like hundreds of families from around the country where somebody's disabled and has to be taken care of. So they can't really feel sorry for themselves because they're seeing too many people.
Yeah.
And once again, it's like you can't victimize yourself when there's a whole lot of people just like you around you. So
Right.
it's
and
critical.
with harder stuff too.
Oh,
I
and
mean,
with
I think,
harder stuff,
you know,
yeah.
sometimes we think, gosh, we've already got enough on ourselves. We don't want to receive more hard stories or enter into other people's real pain. But I think what that opens up in us is this shift of perspective that's so helpful. It's not like we just all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I'm so much more depressed, or it's so sad, I can't handle my stuff and all this other. It's like it really just sort of lightens the load because
Yeah.
we're getting under it together. And the net effect is this light yoke. And it's such a picture of the gospel. It's like, you know, what looks like it's going to be heavy, taking on this co-suffering is really compassion. And it's really this expansion of our hearts. And that's all we want for our kids. I don't care, you know, what they do in school or college or whatever. I want them to be people of compassion. I want them to like look out at the world and see its beauty with gratitude, see God woven in through all of it, and just see what it is that they're to do with other people, with what God's given them. So
Well, and I just believe that God has something so special for your boys, because as you guys have lived and led this legacy of compassion and strength in the middle of suffering, that you can only imagine what God has for them, the kind of life, the kind of leadership, what God has for them as they're seeing you guys live out compassion, as they're seeing at Hope Heals Camp what it looks like to love people in their hardest places. Like, it's just exciting to me to even think about what God has for them. So,
Oh, you're sweet,
anyways.
Jenny. Well, we're hoping to introduce our boys to your little ones.
Yes.
There's little girls one day.
I know.
Girls.
There you go.
do an arranged marriage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, we'll iron out the
We're totally into
details.
that.
We'll iron out the details right after this call.
Okay. Great.
Well,
We're in.
How old is Daisy?
Daisy's 10,
Daisy's
about to be
10.
11.
Okay,
Clover
great. Yeah.
is 9, about to be 17. And then
Yeah.
Olivia's 15 and Lennox is 3, and absolutely crazy and amazing. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Daisy 11, James 13. That's a great fit.
Yeah, I'm afraid Olivia's going to be way beyond,
Yeah,
James's
Olivia's already running
maturity
circles
level.
around here.
She's
So.
tall. She shot up for sure. I want to ask, with the camp, you have families coming in. What would the website be for families who are wanting information on that, either to support it or be a part of it?
Yeah, hopehealscamp.org.
Okay, and I've watched the Instagram stories, clips, and video footage, and man,
it's crazy.
if that's not
It's
just the
moving.
most emotional, beautiful, everything.
Yes.
But I'm just curious. You've watched a lot of families navigate. I was with you once, and a wonderful girl got brought in to meet you who had been through paralysis just very suddenly once. I remember she had a hammock fall down. She was in a hammock and the tree fell down and hit her neck.
Yeah, I remember.
And I was there that day, I think when you had just had brought her to church for the first time, right?
Yes.
And just
totally.
watching you around her and seeing you serve her, and obviously, you're in your wheelchair, but you would get up and she's not able to move from the neck down, I remember. And just watching you serve around her, it was so challenging and beautiful to see you pay it forward. People were there for you, and now you're mentoring the next generation of sufferers. And anyhow, my question is, when you watch different families and different people get handed the trauma, you've probably seen some rise up very resilient and others maybe not so much. What are some of maybe the things that come to mind that you see people do consistently that helps them make that turn versus end up, Lieutenant Dan, bitter, and, to use a caricature from a movie.
Wow.
Forrest Gump, good call.
Yeah.
But I know exactly
Yeah.
what you mean.
You see the image. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Totally. Of course.
I mean, I think the ones who are surrounded by a community, whether that's a faith community or even, just a family community, have such leaps and bounds and opportunity to be resilient. Because again, when you're faced with something like a disability of yourself or your family member, you realize really quickly you can't do it alone. Well, I mean, you can't, there's no way. And so, the problem is, though, mostly disability makes you more isolated. It's sometimes you can't go into places you'd want to, like the church. Maybe quite physically you can't go into it. I mean, people with disabilities are thought to be the most unchurched people group in the world. Unchurched meaning they might want to go to church, they might be believers, but they are not able to be a part of a church community.
Yeah.
And so, camp for us is this little offering. I'm saying this is a launching pad. This isn't a mountaintop for you. We want this to be a launching pad where you go back into your life. And the volunteers, we want you to go see the world differently. We want you to go make a place at the table for people in your community with disabilities, maybe who are isolated and alone, and even just a friendship will change something in the way they feel like they can keep showing up to their life. So, I mean, I think, that whole idea of community and the resources are absolutely, it's again, empirically researched to show that there's a shift in the quality of life. And that's not necessarily the same as resilience, but when you feel like you have a very poor quality of life, it's pretty hard to be resilient above those circumstances. Yeah. So when you have community, when you have other people who can get under the weight of that, and physically just step in and maybe help you. And then when you have some kind of resource, and that doesn't just mean financial, that means informational resources, that means spiritual resources. Like what's kind of interesting about camp, of course, we hope to give just a spiritual bump and spiritual resourcing about resilience, about suffering, about how God enters into the midst of it. We have found what was so cool is these two families, and we have 33 kinds of disability represented from 35 states. There's about a little under 1,000 people that come over the summer. Wow. And these two families, we heard this later, their children have this genetic disorder. They're from totally different parts of the country. They saw a bumper sticker on the card that represents this genetic disorder. There's literally like 15 children in the world that have this.
Wow. Jeez.
They found each other at camp and were able to share resources together about their specific thing that they feel like nobody in the whole world could understand.
Right.
And wow. So again, somehow that being in that space where you can find the help that you're looking for in all holistic senses of yourself and your struggle just changes things, help you feel less alone, even if you're, doing it over Zoom. You're like, oh my gosh, thank you for that tidbit about, the doctor that that we need to go see, or this change in our diet, or this thing we should watch or read, or.
I'm bursting to say something.
Anyway.
Oh my gosh, that was beautiful, but I have to add.
I'm sorry, please.
No, I'm dying to say this. It made me, Levi telling that story about the girl who had been paralyzed made me think. And by the way, I keep up with her and she's doing awesome. Her name's Caroline. She lives in Savannah, Georgia, and she's a rock star.
She was just about to get married back then, right?
Yeah.
Right. She got married and she's still fully quadriplegic and living her best life. Hallelujah. She's doing incredible.
Really
wow.
I mean that. And therein lies the difference. On the tip of my tongue as she's living her best life is people who are able to like re-enter the world undeterred by weird comments and all the haters and all the bitterness and darkness that surrounds you, because you're like, I don't really care what the world thinks or how people at the grocery store act. I'm gonna live a wonderful life. And I'm going to give God glory. And I got purpose way beyond this moment. That is like something shifts in your brain. So Levi, to your question, I think people who are able to engage the world, but not be bound by the world, can survive and thrive in disability. For instance, at this point, I have had thousands contact me because their loved one became disabled or they became disabled. And one of the first things I tell them is that you are going to have to learn to get thick skin really quickly. Wow. People are going to say the weirdest things to you. People are going to pray for your healing all the time. And there's nothing wrong with praying for healing. I love that. But that is not the only thing about who you are now. There's so much more depth to you than your physical body.
Yes.
Don't get confused.
Wow.
And when I start having those conversations, it's this freeing element for them to be like, you are so right. Like, I'm so focused on my body when my soul is on the line here. It's going to soar despite the condition and state of my broken body. And for people like Caroline to be able to empathize with whoever we're talking to, but not internalize and take it to bed with you and not be able to sleep and be wrought with like bitterness and sadness and just all the negative things. To me, the people who don't do that are the ones who are able to get on with life and move forward after tragedy.
Well, thick skin, soft heart, I think.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, we say it a lot at our camp. We teach our friends, thick skin, soft heart. That's the key.
That's it. Yeah, that's so key. That's so beautiful.
Gosh. Well, that's also good. And I think what keeps coming up again and again and again is, and what we want to impart to our kids and what we want ourselves is, what does our vision of the good life look like? Because if our vision of the good life is no trials, no pain, then not only are we all going to be disappointed and grow disillusioned and jaded, but if our vision includes suffering and if there's an expectation, we are going to suffer, we are going to encounter loss, but God's going to use it for good. So then we're not going to be, cynics and pessimistic and have this negative, jaded view of the future, but we're going to know full well it's going to hurt, but that in the midst of it, something good's going to come, and our best life expels on into eternity. And so I just think that is so profoundly important for parents and for all of us to consider. So
it's really, how do we define what good is? Is we don't believe our lives are good. Our pain can be used for good, because ultimately we do not believe that God is good. It's up to us is what we believe. And that's what we pass on to our children. And it messes them up.
yeah. But even what you're saying, Jay, about like you saw so many go through who had the strong community that got them through it. And, I know you like to say, prepare for your pain. And it's like no one knows what's coming down the road. So it's like going to church now, these sort of healthy rhythms, before difficulties come, that's the time to put them in place. You want to be able to lean on them in the midst of it. You don't want to be scrambling, trying to create community while I know you guys' story with the Bel Air, that Bel Air Pres Church, they were in the waiting room of the hospital for the 2 years with you guys, basically. But you had that community ahead of time. You weren't trying to get it when life fell apart.
Exactly.
Yeah, it changed everything really for us. And I think, and the ability to tell our story then, as we, we're seeking healing, as we were moving forward, the ability to tell our story, not only to ourselves, but to other people. Yeah. We talked about this recently. I can't remember where, but like we kind of stumbled into just being able to share. And like through that rhythm of sharing and putting together the story and remembering the things that really were the story that we wanted to tell about ourselves, to tell ourselves about ourselves.
Right.
Continue to make us want to live into that story. Continue to make us believe that story. We weren't re-narrating the past, like, oh, nothing bad happened. Like we're receiving all of the depth of what we've been through, but we're saying we get to choose what we do with that. We get to choose the story we tell ourselves about what happened. There's a lot of versions we could tell ourselves, as evidenced by people with maybe different mindsets or proclivities or personalities looking at the same picture, but coming away with totally different, takeaway or story from something. Like we got this opportunity and to this day to keep reminding ourselves and remembering in front of, beautiful friends and beautiful strangers and people on the internet, people in person, and all these different ways. It's like created this new neural pathway for us to believe this story more deeply. And so I think, people with resilience who find joy even in their deepest pain find a way to tell themselves that story of joy even before they fully are living it. And again, that's not revising history or denying the real thing. Like we all get to determine what we think about what happened to us, and to tell some story that is good and hard, that is true and honoring of what has been lost, but is still hopeful of all that has been gained, is the story I want to keep telling. And it's the story I want to keep living.
Suffer strong, redefine. What is it? Let's read the subtitle one more time.
Survive.
How to survive anything. by redefining everything.
And I loved your dedication.
I just want to say how great the photo is, by the way.
I know.
That
you
is got to be
guys.
one of the best all-time
Hey,
photos
I
ever.
think you may know
Seriously.
that the woman behind that photo, Shelley Giglio, helped put that
Well,
together.
that's true.
Was she the art director
Shelley-
for that?
Yeah, basically, she was like our free art director. Absolutely.
That's kind of true. But what's interesting is that we literally took a whole series of pictures with a guy named Cameron Powell, who does a lot of like Nashville. Like he does a lot of country music,
Sure.
kind of celebrities, which makes total sense. For
Yeah.
him to
Of
photograph
course.
us.
I mean,
Totally.
hello, duh.
But anyway, he was
Yes.
great. But he's like, I brought this like, he's like, I think we got the shot already. It was kind of these moody, gray, black backdrops and this whole vibe. And then he said, I brought this kind of funny, bright blue backdrop and like, let's just try it. Like just
We're
last
like, okay.
one last 5-minute shot. So that's of
That's
course
it.
where we found the winner.
That's
So
awesome.
It was kind of a happy accident.
And what I
but
mean is it was narrowed down to a few and Shelley picked it.
that's true.
Aw.
Shelley Giggs.
And I like the sea foam or mint. What is that? Well, how do you refer to this color?
I
like
say
even a-
Tiffany blue, but I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. What were you going to say, Jen?
Oh, but I love the dedication. For all the broken bodies, broken brains, and broken hearts, ... there is more. And so I think for anybody, and I just love how that the subtitle is How to Survive Anything by Redeeming Everything. It's just redefining everything. This is for everyone. And
Redeeming
so,
too. You could do
yes.
both.
Yeah,
I think
both.
that's what we're getting to
Totally.
ultimately.
And I think one of the most impactful chapters was in sickness and in health for me. And mostly, I mean, not mostly, but one of the things being how you, Jay, declared no more folding tiny underwear. I mean, as
Over
a
it.
fellow laundry connoisseur,
Seriously.
Hate laundry.
that's like, yes, that makes so much sense. Why? Why do we spend
Why do you
this
have fold
time
tiny-
making
I kinda
this hour of tiny underwear?
I don't know if it was offensive or maybe it's just spot on, but like basically, marriage is like a laundry metaphor.
Yes.
Basically, sometimes it can be
It's so
beautiful,
true.
clean thing to put on yourself and receive, but also there's
It's
certain,
messy.
messy tediousness, dailiness of it, and how do we continue to find a way to show up?
What
to it?
he's saying is marriage is exhausting.
Yeah.
Just like doing the
They're
laundry.
exhausting parts, and then I'm grateful to live. I don't know how to make the metaphor work.
You don't have to.
Wrapped in a fresh sheet of love.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Stop while you're
absolutely.
ahead. It's perfect.
That's
Okay.
a good point. No,
When you're
that's
not writing, when you're not leading camps, preaching, or all the things, what brings you guys joy on a quiet day besides the trees in the backyard? Do you guys have things you'd like to do
Ooh.
together? You guys foodies?
Yeah, all the things,
We're
yes.
we took it upon ourselves to keep our local restaurants in business during 2020. So
Love
we
it.
decided not to
Single-handedly?
cook At a
Yep,
single-handedly.
we single-handedly,
We-
Kept
got
businesses
some
open.
serious to go
Is there a
food.
favorite type of food?
We do love a good
Ooh.
a local restaurant that's not a chain. We love just like a local chef or whatever that
Yeah.
we're into. And so Atlanta's got some great eats. We love Ford Fry is our favorite. He's got
Oh,
Super Rica
yeah.
Mexican food. He's got Saint Cecilia the Optimist. So we're
That's a
just,
good one.
I think also Kathrine didn't eat for a year because of her stroke.
Yeah.
She was fed through a tube in her stomach. And
Yeah.
so, kind of again,
Cause Jay poured liquid into a tube in my stomach for a year.
Wow.
yeah, that,
Wow.
and they said basically like, this is your reality now. Like there's, the damage done is
Y'all
not-
want to see how
deniable.
one of the ways I eat again?
Yes.
This device.
Oh, wow. What is that?
Wow.
It's called a palatal lift. It's a device that they put in my mouth that enables my soft palate to lift up and swallow food. It's really
Wow.
cool.
That-
Just
what a
slowly,
gift.
I think
That's
13
amazing.
different muscles have to work in perfect synchronicity. And so
To swallow.
half of Katherine's, to swallow. Like it has to create a vacuum to block your nasal passageway to open this up and blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
And so, a lot of the nerves were damaged that on the right side with the facial paralysis, all kind of everything down the right side. And so she's actually numb on that whole side of her face too, and in her mouth. So she can't even
Can't feel.
half of her mouth. She
Wow.
can't even feel anything. So
She's just over there
It's
slapping
weird.
herself in the face for those
Yeah, I don't
listening.
think you need
Yeah,
to
the
slap.
sound that you
I
heard
can't feel
was
it.
Kathrine slapping her face to demonstrate that she's numb. Those on the audio podcast are like,
Still
what is going on?
Sorry.
No, I love it.
It's kind of funny.
It's absolutely funny.
You're
So we
sweet.
celebrate, all that to say, we celebrate what shouldn't be, which is just this life around the table with these, much less when somebody with these incredible gifts of a chef can create this moment and this experience. We just eat that up. Literally, we love it. And
Love
so
it.
we don't do a lot of skydiving, a lot of, dirt biking together. Just it's not available at the moment. We could probably get one of those giant, a 3-wheeler thing. I don't know. That feels like a lot
Lisa
of
Harper's motorcycle with a
Yeah.
sidecar.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Maybe
love
you just
that.
need to write Lisa Harper. Just get it.
Yeah.
That's so true. She'd
So
take
we
me.
do a lot of eating.
You
Yeah.
two would be dangerous together.
Oh my
I just tell you
God.
right now.
It'd be like a reality show. Just
Oh,
waiting.
I would pay to sit and watch. Yeah.
I
That
smoke
would
at
be
a
funny.
conference.
You smoke at a
recently
conference?
with
Smoke on
Lisa.
stage.
Hey, I know, funny that Branson.
Are we
Missouri,
back
they
to
still-
doing that? I thought we're only doing Zooms.
I would think so. Evidently not in Branson, Missouri. You can do
They
it.
didn't shut down.
Yeah, and Lisa, she's probably one of the most hilarious people I have ever met.
Yes.
I mean,
Oh.
she was I laughed out loud
Yes,
multiple times.
multiple
Y'all friends with her?
times.
She's hysterical.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay, you just said Branson, Missouri. Someone just told us, I've never heard of Branson, but someone just literally last night, remember, goes, Branson, Missouri, they call it the new Nashville. I've never heard of it. Is it true? Is that the new Nashville?
That's an optimistic.
Seems like a very
There.
generous way to describe anything
feel
in
like
Missouri.
I wouldn't say that. But,
Maybe.
we'd love Branson.
Maybe.
Maybe that's like a self-imposed title, like the disciple
Yes.
Jesus loved. I was like, we're the new Nashville.
For
Maybe.
sure.
I was gonna say maybe in a dystopian future.
Yeah.
But
Well, now we're gonna
no
get lots of
more.
hate
They're
mail
right.
from
Yeah.
Branson.
Yeah.
Branson.
Uh,
They're
and,
wonderful.
and they've been living their truth, during this time. And
There you go.
I think it's hopefully not too many people died.
No.
Oh
And
my God.
in Montana, do y'all even have to mask? Is COVID?
It depends on what city you're in.
There's one or two cities where you do, but most of Montana pretty much looks a lot like it did pre-pandemic.
I imagine
Yeah.
so.
A little
It's
less density of
Population.
Yeah.
We've been social distancing
Helpful.
for 200 years, which does help.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a thing.
yeah.
It's pretty baked into
Yeah.
the
Totally.
deal.
Very few
Wow.
people, very big state.
Yeah.
Wow, it's so
yeah,
beautiful.
for
So,
sure.
God,
It just depends on the place, for sure. Atlanta's super careful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
population density, yeah, for sure.
Totally. Oh yeah, I
but
think
but
it
the
was.
things are waking up. So Katherine's getting back on the road a little bit more.
Tomorrow.
Yeah,
Wow.
figuring out
Flying
how
to
to make it all
Oklahoma
work.
tomorrow. You're right. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, listen, you two are a gift. We
Such
value
a
our
gift.
friendship with you. On behalf of everyone
Aw.
listening who's grateful to have gotten to hear from you, thank you.
Yes.
And man, can't recommend Suffer Strong enough. Hope Heals enough. I imagine there are Bible study curriculums around these as well.
Actually, yeah, if you go to hopeheals.com/books, there's a bunch of free study guides. Even for Suffer Strong, there's a 6-part study guide and a 12-part. So we kind of
They're all
tried
free.
to make it all, free downloads just to make it accessible.
And for people who haven't read either, would you recommend they start with Hope Heals and go forward, or start with
Yes.
Suffer Strong and go
Oh, sorry.
backwards?
Oh, I think Jenny has a recommendation.
Jenny has
on it.
strong thoughts on the matter. She's like erupted. Yes.
Sorry.
Jenny, tell us
Please,
what order
you
to read
tell
them
us.
in.
You tell
Maybe
us.
that's right, though. I mean, it gives you context. Suffer
context.
Strong is not a sequel. That needs to be.
Nor is it a
just-
reiteration of the same content.
Yeah, it's not like this story continues. I mean, we tell stories about our
Yeah,
life. in
it just
It's
gives
a
you
little
the
more
beautiful
sort of,
background, I feel, or your
Hope
story.
Heals gives the
The,
background.
Yeah.
the easy way to say it is Hope Heals is the memoir of what happened. Suffer Strong is the lessons we learned
Yes, good.
throughout it.
That's right.
That's
Very
the
good.
difference.
So they should start with Hope Heals.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
All
So
right.
does Jenny.
Jenny, you've heard it
Follow
here,
Jenny.
folks. All right, you guys.
Oh, would you just maybe just take a second to just encourage someone who's in a place, maybe they just recently landed in a place of suffering, or they're hurting. Would you just in a moment just encourage them and maybe just take a moment and pray for them?
Sure.
Okay, that's all you, girl.
Oh, well, to encourage any listener who is just suffering through something so hard, possibly traumatic, The reality is that your story is not over, that this is a season and seasons change. And God is writing a beautiful story somehow through your life. So do not lose heart in this moment when this season feels unending and unchanging. God is the God of new things, and he's doing something new in your life. Don't miss it. Wishing for what you had before. Walk into something beautiful and new that God is doing. Don't get caught up in the lie that your pain is the end. That your pain is the new beginning. It is the new thing that God is doing. Run towards it and persevere. Hebrews 12 so beautifully says it, that you can persevere, run with perseverance, run or roll, I add. The race marked out for you. Fix your eyes on Jesus. Adjust your gaze, it says in Colossians 3, to him. I love the beautiful passage of Galatians 6, 4 and 5 to say, make a careful exploration of who you are and the work that you've been given. Do the creative best that you can with your own life. And let that inform everything, guys. Do the creative best that you can with your unique story that God has assigned to you intentionally while you are on earth for such a short time.
That's good.
So
Beautiful.
good. Thank you, Kathrine.
Was that a prayer too? I don't know.
It sounded like you prayed while you were in. I mean, I think that counts.
I went for it.
I think, well, here, I'll do this as a prayer / verse to close. I love Romans 15:13, and let that be our prayer. May the God of hope fill us with joy and peace as we trust in you, that we may overflow with hope by the power of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. God bless you guys. Thank you so
Love
much.
you.
We love you all. So good to see you.
Thank you so much for listening. And be sure to swing by levilusko.com to see what's going on in our world, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. In the meantime, we would love to connect with you on social media. Jenny and Levi Lusko, out.